What's up, YouTube? Welcome in to part 5 of God of War Ragnarök with a therapist. About to enter the mines of Moria, the mines of Svartalfheim, and I'm very excited about it. Can't wait to see what's in store. I appreciate so much that you are here hanging out and that you have made it all the way to part 5. I hope you're really enjoying it so far. I have certainly been enjoying the playthrough. I mean, really, every episode's been great. I appreciate those of you that have been leaving comments and who have been leaving a thumbs up on the stream. Thanks for your engagement. The engagement goes a really long way to helping these videos hit the algorithm. And hopefully that means more eyeballs on the stream and on these videos. If you think there's anybody in your life that could benefit from watching this, by all means, send it their way. I do want to take 1 second here to just, it's not address, but to kind of clarify something that I think is important for me to reiterate every once in a while, which is that my primary objective in these playthroughs is to educate folks. It's to talk about things that happen in this game in such a way that it can translate to real life, meaning your life, my life, anybody's life. So even though I recognize that, Kratos is a Spartan. I understand that. I understand that there are certain backgrounds of these characters that make them act in certain ways. But my goal always is to take these interactions and try to translate them into something that you can use to understand things outside of the game. So really, really important for me to make that point. Sometimes comments, particularly on TikTok, sort of miss the mark because people are like, well, DrMick, it's because Kratos is Spartan. It's like, yes, I understand that he's a Spartan. Not the point of what I'm trying to do. So just want to make sure that I clarify that. All right. Without further ado, let's make it happen. Here we are, right where we left off, at the gates of the mine. Not sure what to expect in here. I'm sure it will be quite interesting. I think I did everything that there was to do in this area. So let's check it out. What do you think, Atreus? Ooh, baby. Another one of these cloud things that we can't access.
I think this is it. This is the mine.
Intriguing. However, we're ill-equipped to do anything with it right now.
Good to know.
Look out!
Get over here.
Well, looks like the official entrance to the mine is blocked. There's gotta be another way.
I don't know what happens when I knock these
Maybe
buckets
this cable
over.
get us in.
It might. Why don't you chill, big guy? Let me break some shit. Let me make my presence known. All right.
This way.
Nice. Not a dead end. Come on, let's see where this goes.
I wonder if there'll be a Balrog down here.
You guys again?
Right flank!
Yeah.
Where are they all coming from?
It seems like under the ground.
It certainly smells like we're headed into a mine.
think I can hear the water too.
Slow down, Atreus. Take care. Be ready.
So, I think I found where those righteous were coming from.
They will overwhelm you quickly. Stay close.
Find you! Incoming!
All right, we gotta go take out this big dude. Come on, Atreus. Ah! Yeah.
Watch out!
Yeah. Oh, whiff. Big whiffer. Yeah.
That thing was nasty.
Yeah, it was. I didn't even get hit by it because it's a little
The
Little
smell
dummy
these
dumb.
things leave behind is so gross.
A small consequence for disturbing their home.
Let's keep moving. Yeah.
I just, you know, Kratos, you just are endearing, dude. Kratos gets it, man. We're the invaders here. We're not entitled to this space. Not entitled to this space. Game audio could use a slight boost. Still. Huh? Do that. But yeah, I mean, Kratos, like, recognizing really the broader context of, like, who he is relative to what's happening. I know I've talked about this a little bit, but, like, saying, like, we came into its home. It's entitled to fight against us. Is great. And I like that he imparts that onto Atreus because I think it helps Atreus recognize context and consequences and nuance. All the things that he's going to need in order to be more self-sufficient.
Maybe we can
Once
ride
Kratos
the
is
boat
no
and
longer
further into the
available.
mine. Worth a shot.
Not sure if I'm using the right terms, but Kratos suppressing his emotions would even be capable of dealing with them, or wouldn't he know how to handle them? Oh, he could absolutely learn to handle them. It might take some time. He's not used to it, but Kratos can absolutely learn how to acknowledge and manage his emotions.
Get in any other way.
I understand, Atreus. Chill, man. I'm trying to educate the masses.
I'm sorry. I know you said not to, but I can't stop thinking about this. We spend all of our time fighting bad stuff, and I don't get why we can't do that alongside Tyr.
We do not know him.
We saw his shrines. He's a leader. He stood up to Odin when no one else would. If he's done it before, why wouldn't he do it again?
Images from long ago do not tell a whole story.
Okie dokie. So, a nice kind of like arbitrary conclusion here that Atreus draws. Basically, this idea that people are always the same way, which checks out because him as a teenager without having a fully developed mind still isn't going to fully comprehend development itself. So this idea that, well, if Tyr once did this, he must still want to do it because I have enough of the story to understand who he is, thus this is going to stay the same. Like, people's motivations change over time. Who better to know that than Kratos? When Kratos says pictures and images don't tell a whole story, he's not just talking about Tyr, he's also talking about himself. Like, imagine what Atreus would think if he saw what Kratos did many years ago in his history. What kind of conclusion would Atreus draw about his father? And so I think in Kratos recognizing his own development and his own shift of motivation to being one of caregiver for his son and mentor for his son, he also is recognizing that Tyr may not necessarily be what we think he is, and we haven't met him to have him be a known variable yet. So he's trying to keep Atreus in check by basically saying, you can't operate off of this as if it's a known variable. But developmentally, it would make sense that Atreus would do that because he probably hasn't had enough experiences to really fully immerse himself in that nuance. And when he did in the prior game, he was a child and wouldn't be able to connect those things, even if Kratos tried to help him do that. So this is not just about like story development. This is also about Atreus's development in the way that he understands the dynamics and relationships and the interplay of motivation and space-time in the world that he lives in. And I like that Kratos is patient with Atreus in that process. That's what you need to be, instead of making him feel dumb. He consistently says you need to be careful, which is true, but he doesn't shame Atreus for the fact that he has these thought processes. I do wish that Kratos was a little bit more elaborative with what it is that he's coming from, but I think at this point it's maybe asking a little bit too much. His patience is the first step here. And it's okay that Atreus is willing to ask.
There's a door. Once we get off this, let's check there for Tyr. He's gotta be close. I can't help but feel like you're angry with me or something. Ever since we got to Svartalfheim, you've been critical of my every move. If you don't think I can lead us, just say so.
It is not your competence that is in question.
Okay? But what does that mean?
Consider your intent.
That is awesome. I actually love that Atreus is at a point with Kratos where he can just say directly to him, if you have something to say to me, say it to me. I don't want to operate off of my assumptions. He was clear about the assumption he was making and then gave Kratos an opportunity to respond to that. Now, is there a bit of projection going on when he says, I feel like you're angry at me? Potentially. My guess is that Atreus may feel some sense of ambiguity around his competence as a leader because he hasn't really been in this position very often. And so some of his insecurity around that, understandably so, is going to leak into his assumption of what his father sees. But him asking Kratos directly, saying, hey, I've got your behavior has changed. He names the behavior. Says, your behavior has changed since we got here. You have been more critical of me since we have been here, and I'd like to know why. Is it a question of my leadership? Is awesome. It forces Kratos to open up. And so when Kratos says, nope, it has nothing to do with your competence, there's a bit of reassurance there, and he says, but you need to consider your intent. So then he gives Atreus something to ponder and consider of why his behavior has changed. I also think that we're in a position now, since Thor showed up and since Odin showed up, I would not be surprised if Kratos is afraid. I would not be surprised if Kratos is worried about his son's well-being, because these are some pretty powerful forces. These aren't just like random enemies and rangers in the woods anymore. And so Kratos is going to oscillate a bit here between caretaker, need to make sure that his son is safe at all times, and mentor who teaches his son to be a leader. And these are the types of conversations that have to be had between the two of them if those dynamics are going to get in sync over the course of this game. So I admire Atreus for bringing it up, and I also admire Kratos for not getting defensive and instead engaging with his son around that conversation and being very clear about what it is that has modified his behavior. It helps Atreus realize that his perceptions of what's going on are accurate, but also that some of it isn't. And so seeking clarification on those perceptions rather than making assumptions, particularly with somebody that he tends to be intimidated by, it's a big deal. That's really leaning into and acknowledging that you might be stymieing yourself interpersonally by not saying something when you should just bring it up.
This place is huge. Must have taken ages to build. Another door. We'll have to check that one too.
Word's instructions do not say which one.
Nope, we're on our own here. Your question from before, about my intent. I intend to help the God of War stop Odin. And that means freeing him from whatever prison he's in right now.
Brace yourselves, friends,
Sindri? Oh,
and be careful exiting that thing. 1 foot at a time. There are loose, rusty nails everywhere.
have you seen any signs of Tyr?
As if I would navigate this maze of running sewage. No. I'm sure you'll manage that on your own.
I don't know. The water looks pretty clear here.
Keyword, looks. I think I can sharpen those chain blades of yours.
I like the sound of that.
Appreciate it.
If I don't have it, you don't need it.
I have a chaos flame, so we can upgrade this.
Fire's
Love that.
actually a disinfectant, so these are very hygienic.
All right, cool. That's good. I don't need a lucky knob. Can sell this though.
That belonged to one of the rebels, didn't it?
You're correct, Dante. Yes. So, like, part of the reason that we're even here is because of the fact that Atreus did the legwork on this, and Kratos is more in an evaluative position of, like, show me what you found. And he is going against his better judgment and following his son here, and there is a huge amount of trust going here. That's going to be a really hard space for Kratos to occupy because generally he's the one that's leading and making sure that everything is safe. And so, I think to some extent, what we're potentially going to see here with Kratos, and maybe we already are a bit, is Kratos has to engage with a little bit of his own anxiety on this. Uncertainty is the underlying foundation of anxiety. Kratos likes to do his homework. He likes to know exactly what he's getting into. And Atreus is shooting a little bit more from the hip here. Or at the very least, Kratos doesn't have an entirely full understanding of what kind of research his son has done up until this point. So Kratos is having to lean into some unknowns here. And when we see Atreus say, well, I don't know what door it is, and Kratos is like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't know what door it is. That's a little burst of anxiety from Kratos. See, because the thing that people often don't think about as it relates to anxiety is that being a follower is going to create a lot of anxiety if the leadership is not airtight. And that's the position that Kratos is having to sit within right now, is this bouncing back and forth between, I want Atreus to lead this, but it invites a lot of unknowns. And when there are unknowns, we need to plan, we need to prepare, we need to stay vigilant. I need to make sure that my son is safe because I don't trust that he can do that as well as I can, but I also need to trust him as a leader. So there's a lot of dissonance. There's a lot of shit that Kratos is working through right now as we move through these mines. And again, he's doing a pretty good job navigating it, to his credit.
Whoa, this is beautiful.
And something that's noticeable in this, even as we do go through this mission structure, is Atreus is always ahead of us. He's not following behind, which is a neat detail from Sony Santa Monica's, like...
Look, there's a
Point of
door
view.
just across this gap. Tyr could be right there.
Could be, but we don't know for sure, sir.
God.
Whoever wrote this certainly had an eye for detail.
The water flow's blocked.
Vault Vista. Don't know what to tell you. Not everything's got a thrilling story behind it. Sometimes people just label things exactly what they are. Are the developers speaking to me? There's some cynical person who hate watches my playthroughs that's like, Yeah, dude, that was just for you. Not all of these things need that much analysis, Dr. Mick. Yeah. Guarantee you there's somebody watching this. I just peered right into their soul. All right, where do we want to go here?
Sounds
There we
like
go.
the water moving along, brother. What next?
Now we...
Ah, not quite right.
That worked. Let's get to the door. Come on.
So, if I'm Kratos here, and I want to really scaffold Atreus' thought process, reasoning, and leadership, and also mitigate some of my own unknowns and anxiety about this situation, this would be a perfect time for Kratos to say, hey, can I ask you a couple questions about this? Because I want to see what your thought process is on this. Atreus says, sure. Kratos says, okay. I want to know what kind of forethought you've put into this. I appreciate that we've gotten this far. It sounds like you've been onto something to this point. Very cool. When you run into Tyr, what are you planning to say to him? What's your understanding of what his motivations are? What if he's not alive? What if he doesn't seem to be interested in what you have to say to him? Have you thought through what your plans are of what we do with him relative to the context that we're in? And you're not asking that to be an asshole. You're not asking that to poke holes in what it is that he has. You're doing that as a mentor and instructor to get him engaged with his thought process. And if he says, I don't know to any of those questions, if I'm Kratos, I'm saying to him, cool, let's figure out the answer to some of those questions before we go in there. We don't have to engage with every what if. That's not what we're trying to do. But let's figure out if the main core bones of our plan are in place so that we are not completely thrown off or shooting from the hip when we walk in here and see him, whether he's alive or dead. That would be something that Kratos could consider here as a way to really help Atreus understand how many dynamics are at play when you do something like this. Now, whether that actually happens or not, we'll see, but...
Tyr?
Well, I certainly don't think this is where Tyr currently is.
He's got to be here somewhere. This mine is huge.
Atreus, what do you intend to stop Odin from doing? You speak as if you know his plan.
I don't know his plan. That's why we're...
Ahem. Brothers, with Fimbulwinter underway and Ragnarok around the corner, Odin will be desperate. Whatever he's planning to do surely won't be to the benefit of anyone but himself.
Exactly.
There was no need for Mimir to step in there. I think Mimir stepping in there gives us insight into his own personal motivations and worries about the interpersonal dynamics that are available right now. Here's what I mean by this. Atreus has a certain idea of what it is that he's trying to accomplish. Kratos did exactly, to an extent, what I was hoping he would do, which is ask for clarification from Atreus. Like, that's quite literally what I was talking about before we walked through the door. So Kratos asked this question, and Atreus brings something up, and Mimir starts to detect an increase in emotional intensity, and that there's maybe some disconnect between the two of them in terms of what their motivations are. And compels himself to step in and stop that. To stop the argument. When in reality, that argument, if it was even going to be an argument, is an incredibly useful tool. Because the thing is, a lot of teenagers actually engage in arguments because that's one of the major ways that we actually learn to engage with formal operational thought. It helps us play with our own ideas. So there's a real opportunity for connection between Kratos and Atreus there if they work together in that conversation, even if it's a bit intense, in order to work this out and get on the same wavelength. Mimir tries to dissipate that anxiety by stepping in and trying to sort of say this like neutral thing that he thinks is going to connect with both of them. And he does stop them from talking, but the reason even beyond that I'm pointing this out is because it shows us some of his motivation. I think Mimir realizes that he needs Kratos and Atreus in order to survive himself. And if he perceives that they are not on the same page in any kind of profound way and go their separate ways, he's in danger. And because the only thing that he generally has to offer to the conversation is knowledge, and in this case, there's knowledge that he doesn't have because he doesn't know all the variables that are at play, he tries to step in and neutralize it with some sort of intellectual statement. And I think it's in some ways an act of survival. It tells us what he's most worried about. It's just a thought, but very interesting to me that he jumped in there. It's not his responsibility to pop into that. That conversation doesn't have any kind of bearing on Mimir right now. It's an interpersonal opportunity between Kratos and Atreus, and if he could understand it as that, he would let it go. If it got really bad, then he could jump in. But there's no need for him to jump in that early on it. And it's a lesson to all of us not to do that. Only jump in and handle things that directly affect you. This is intense. It's dangerous. Like, there's a lot going on here. And it's why everybody needs to be on the same page. We don't need to be afraid of like a little bit of interpersonal strife here. It's okay if there's some disagreements or if there's a need to reach out and understand and clarify. Because if that helps us all understand what we're in on, that's a good thing. Conflict is not always bad. Especially when it's in the spirit of seeking clarification on something.
Across the way, there's another door. Maybe that's the one.
Showing him. Learn anything?
Cooperation. We built this realm with our dwarven hands, reinforced it with dwarven muscle, innovated with our dwarven minds. We no longer have to do it alone. Our strength and ingenuity has finally found an equal in the Aesir of Asgard. Now dwarven smiths will work hand in hand with Aesir soldiers and engineers. Now Aesir backs will share the burden with their dwarven brethren, lightening the load for us all. It was dwarves who made Svartalfheim what it is, but together with the Aesir, we can make it into something even better. Gotta love the propaganda.
Glad we explored.
Jeez, man, this is all looking very just similar. I'm not seeing like, oh man, real easy to get lost here. Oi, oi, oi.
How many doors are there down here?
Not to be discouraging, but it is a mine after all.
Namir, that is discouraging.
Also the reality, Atreus. You have to acknowledge the reality of what you're working with, bud.
Did you see that over there?
which is a hallmark of the teenage brain, by the way. I guess I should have anticipated that I was going to talk about teenage development a lot through this game. And this game, I will say, is refreshing a lot of stuff that I spent a lot of time learning when I was going, particularly through my doctoral program. When teenagers get a strong idea that they become passionate about and enveloped by, there is a tendency to operate based off of the idealization and the other, like, all that comes along with that. Confirmation bias, ignoring things that go against it, the desire to be correct. That there is sometimes a lack of acknowledgement of reality, which is really interesting because you spend most of your time as a child and preteen only ever gauging with concrete reality. Other than like when you like pretend or imagine things, but generally like you're working with what's directly in front of you. And so now Atreus has this whole idealized version of how this was going to go. He made up his mind in an abstract way of what was going to happen. We were going to get to the mine. We were going to walk 3 feet in. We were going to see a door, open the door, and Tyr was going to stand there, give us a big hug, and say, "Let's go get Odin, buddy." And that hasn't happened. And so he's having to attend to the reality of the situation. Both Kratos and Mimir understand that because they have lived a very long time. And so Mimir's saying to him, "There's a lot of doors, dude. It's a mine," is a way of getting him to engage more with the reality of the situation, which is that this is not as cut and dry as your idealizations are telling you they are, bud. So we have to help him hold both of these things at the same time. That's a skill, believe it or not. Many of the adults who are watching this video, you do this by second nature because you've had enough lived experience to do this. Some adults are better at it than others, but teenagers are not good at this. They have to have that skill owned over time. Yeah, they defeat Odin with the power of friendship, exactly.
There's a broken door up to the left behind this crane. Maybe Tyr tried to escape. We should look.
Because you'll notice that Atreus is very one-track minded with this. Every single thing that he sees in this mine and in this environment, he is attributing to Tyr. It is so just like, okay, if that door's not here, then it must be because Tyr did this. If this thing's over here, it's because Tyr was trying to run away. It's Tyr. Maybe not. Maybe we're not even in the right mind, dude. Like, maybe Tyr hasn't been here for a long time. Maybe what you read was not correct. It doesn't mean that we have to just give up. But he is not taking into account the whole complexity of what it is that's available here. And a lot of us tend to do this. We tend to get very excited about something. We get tunnel visioned on something, and then we confirmation our bias ourselves all the way through a given environment. That can be dangerous if you start to miss out on attending to the reality of what's going on. Perhaps there are certain dangers. There are other motivations. Perhaps there are things that we don't even know about that are contributing to this situation. This is why I think Kratos is consistently reminding Atreus, you need to be on guard. You need to be prepared for the things that you have not prepared yourself for. And this is part of the issue here that we're seeing in how Atreus is navigating this by saying, it must have been Tyr doing this. Tyr had to have done this. Everything is Tyr. It's understandable, but it also is something that Kratos might want to point out. Hey, stop focusing so much on Tyr. We know we're here for Tyr. Let's figure out how to make sure that we operate with this within this environment in a way that is safe and in a way that we are in control of. Kratos has a big role to play here in helping him out. It can be quite jarring sometimes following teenagers around on stuff. You think Tyr's here or not? I don't know. But That's the reality, is I don't know if he's here. We can't act as if he is here, like Atreus is, and we also can't act like he isn't here. We have to acknowledge that maybe he's here, maybe he's not. And what does that mean for us, and when do we decide whether we need to push on or go back? I think some people probably expected it, Dante, but it's been interesting for me because I don't really work with teenagers as much anymore, so it's interesting to kind of get back into thinking about teenage development while we do this.
Yeah, there we go. I think that should keep the lift fully powered up. We're almost there.
I don't think I'm meant to blow that pot up yet. Oh wait, here we go.
Wait, where are you going?
We will return.
We got some cool shit to go find over here, bro, buddy. We got a boss to fight.
Let's beat these guys and check there. On your right.
Behind you! Incoming!
Where the hell did he go? Huh. What the hell?
Behind you!
This is gonna be a really annoying fight if he's only gonna hang out up here. Oh, here we go. What a power move, dude. Just stand up on that ledge and be like, yeah, you're a little bitch. You can't get up here. Here we go. Ah, I went too early.
Behind you, brother!
Get over here. Yeah.
Door now, shall we?
Scott. Wonder where this leads.
I don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Another dead end.
I don't think we can go this way.
Kiafka Luxor is what is what Atreus has to yell in order to shoot the sonic boom arrows that he has.
A statue. Made for the Aesir.
Indeed. And then stolen by Alfheim, the thief.
I recall Athjof, the thief's antics. He understood one of the most important rules of resistance. You don't always need to win major battles. You just need to inconvenience your invaders. Before Svartalfheim voluntarily bent the knee to Asgard, Odin sent a detachment of Einherjar as a gentle show of force. There wasn't a day that went by where I didn't hear about missing bags of grain or pilfered armor, or in this case, treasured valuables stolen away before they could be returned to Asgard. Unlike most thieves I've known, he stole not for the thrill nor the payoff, but simply to irritate the Einherjar. And it worked! Until they laid a trap for him, caught him, and hanged him with the length of rope he'd been attempting to steal. Oof. Oh, and another thing that we can't cross because we don't have the thing. Alright. Come, Atreus. Good old-fashioned poetic justice, right? How would you get Atreus to, like, lower his expectations? You just continue to work with him to acknowledge the reality of the situation. I don't really think you need to take that away from him. You just have to get him to focus on...
That overflowing water is powering the train. Clever.
You just have to get him to focus on the here and now. And what is it that we'll do when we get there? He's going to fanboy him. That's already been determined.
We'll
You
be
don't
up
have to take
there
it away.
in no time.
Oops.
That's it. Come on. Let's take that lift up. Tyr can't be far. Okay, new exercise. Let's think about how Tyr's probably feeling locked up in his mind. If I were imprisoned by Odin and finally freed, Odin would obviously be at the top of my list. But I would just want to fight something. Anything. Even if it was just to know I still could.
Simultaneous process going on here. One that is really mature and awesome. Another one that is indicative of his need to develop further. So Atreus is engaging in empathy, the skill of empathy. He is essentially saying, let me put myself in Tyr's shoes. If what I know about Tyr is true, here's what it would be like for me. That's great. However, he's limited in his empathy. And this is why I always like to talk about empathy as being a skill. It's something you have to learn to be good at. It's not something that you're just inherently excellent at. Atreus is overly inducting the reasoning of his empathy. So he is basically saying, if I, Atreus, was in that situation, here's how I would feel. Instead of saying, here's how I, Atreus, would feel, but that's not necessarily how Tyr would feel because Tyr has an entirely different lived experience than I do. So maybe that's part of how Tyr might feel. Maybe, though, Tyr has found respite in his sentencing down in the mines. Maybe he's down here by choice because he doesn't want to deal with all the bullshit that he was having to deal with when he was around. We don't know. So Atreus attempting to engage with empathy on Tyr is great, but he's also doing that and assuming and projecting that Tyr would have the same motivations that he currently has now, instead of like, maybe Tyr's motivation would be to get something to eat and to get as far away from this place as he could and not mess with Odin ever again because Odin bested him. Right? We have no idea. So what we would want to do here is help Atreus see that of like, yeah, that's a possibility, but that may not be true. And you are in some ways confirmation biasing yourself here because you're using your own motivations to assume the motivations of Tyr. So it's great, but it's a skill that we're going to need to get a little better at. Because you're going to probably be disappointed if you assume that he's going to think exactly the same way you would. Right? And it's true. We did see something similar with the whale. Mimir thought it would be this great relief for the whale to be released from its shackles. The whale didn't move. So empathy really is, it's a process that moves from inductive to deductive. The more deductive you can be with your reasoning, with your empathy, using part of your own experience and perceptions as a sliver of it, the more sophisticated and likely to hit the mark your empathy is going to be. Instead of just using your own experience and then assuming that's what somebody else's is. How do I get up there? I want to get up there. I want to grab that chest. How do I do that? Alright, we'll figure it out later. We'll figure that out later. As we go up this elevator one more time, I just want to say how much I appreciate y'all being here. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for taking the time. If you're here on Twitch live with me, thank you as well. I'm very grateful for your support of these playthroughs and that you take time to hang out with me and watch them. Oh, I know how to do this. This goes back down. And I jump down, and I do this. There we go. Got it. All right.
Tyr? Whoa, what happened here?
The other thing that I would really want Atreus to be mindful of if I'm Kratos is that Tyr doesn't necessarily know that we're allies. We have no reason to assume that when we run into Tyr, he might become incredibly hostile toward us.
They certainly weren't Tyr. Best look around.
The dwarf didn't make it out.
All right, let's see. So we got these buckets here. Make sure we get those. Get that silver in them.
Is that a relic? Huh.
Relics provide special ability that activates with L1 plus circle. Equip the relic in the weapon screen. Select the relic menu. Press Talisman of Maine. Activate the ability with L1 plus circle. Grants a bonus melee damage for short duration.
Bring it to the wall! We gotta knock it down!
Or just kill it outright.
Got him!
Not all shackles are physical. Taking away a person's physical shackles isn't going to take away the shackles in their mind that have been there for at least as long as the physical ones have been. Correct. There's so many stories of people thinking if we only free these beings, humans or captive animals, they'll be able to live happy, productive lives. And it just never happens because sudden freedom without the scaffolding of how to operate outside captivity is just a different form of captivity. That is correct. Yep. And that was exactly what happened with the whale in the last episode. People who haven't been imprisoned tend to not fully understand what it's like to be imprisoned.
Another empty vault.
Little brother, perhaps it's time
No,
we...
don't even say it. We're gonna find him. Look, another door on the other side of the cavern. Let's go. Get off us!
So Mimir is already starting to get impatient.
Up there. The path keeps going. We'll just have to get across. That worked.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Mimir's that
We
quick
were
to bail.
above where we got off the boat by Sindri. This mine is one enormous spiral.
Incredibly convenient. More like.
Get off us! I think I can hear something in there.
A statue.
Not just any statue. That stony visage hung over the entrance to the World Mill, built by Durin the Generous.
Durin's stone statue. Durin the Generous built the World Mill over the course of decades. He foresaw a future in which Svartalfheim was as lush and verdant as the most overgrown fields in Vanaheim. And the World Mill was the first step toward that future. He'd sell fertile, high-quality soil to the other dwarves and pour all the proceeds into keeping the World Mill running. When Odin heard of his miraculous machine and the independence it might one day grant Svartalfheim, he offered Durin gold beyond measure to destroy it. Durin refused. Odin wanted to bring the whole structure down, of course, but I convinced him to steady his hand. Instead, Asgard simply made their own world mill. We sold our own soil to the dwarves at prices Durin couldn't possibly match. He couldn't afford the upkeep on his miraculous machine, and so it fell into disrepair. Once Durin's world mill broke, Odin destroyed Asgard's as well. Durin took his own life shortly thereafter, and that's the story of how Svartalfheim almost gained independence. Jeez, man. That's some capitalist bullshit if I ever heard it. Yikes.
Another Grogger hole, brother.
Oh boy.
You're on fire! But you probably already know that.
Oh.
Watch your left!
Wrong button.
Your shield, brother. Use it, yeah?
Yeah, I'm working on it, dude. I used it. What?
Aye. We fought it at the other Grogger hole, didn't we? Odd.
Well,
That's not what I was ready for. Another dead end. Where could he be?
Atreus, this mine is largely abandoned. It is unlikely.
Here's here. I know it. Derlin's direction stopped at the entrance to the mine. We just have to keep searching until we find him. You said you'd follow my lead, and I say we keep looking. So knock it off.
Watch yourself. I will follow, but I state what I see. You do not agree with me, but you will not speak to me this way. Are we clear?
Sir.
Ah. Oh man. Okay. That's excellent. That is so good. So good. This is a huge moment for Atreus. And by moment, I mean us going into this mine. Kratos, who has been the leader for the entire duration of Atreus' life, has decided that he is going to follow his son and trust his son's instinct. And for Atreus, that's huge. But with that huge opportunity comes an immense sense of pressure. More internal than external. Kratos hasn't been putting much pressure on Atreus to be right here. Atreus is putting his own pressure on himself. He needs to nail this. He needs to be right in his own mind, because if he's right, it proves to his dad that he's capable of doing things that are more adult-like than he thinks his dad thinks he's capable of. When the reality is, Kratos probably thinks that Atreus is more capable than Atreus thinks. So he is so desperate to get this right. So when Mimir and Kratos start to suggest that maybe this ain't it, that cuts way down into Atreus' core. And instead of getting into the vulnerability of that, instead of getting into the complexity and nuance of it's okay to think you're right about something and then find out that you may not have been, and that doesn't mean that it's a reflection on who you are as a person, instead he gets defensive. And he says, knock it off, which is a immature overcompensation of leadership. To say to his father, so knock that shit off, is him acting like a leader that he thinks has power, but isn't actually any kind of act of leadership. The fact that Kratos was able to take that moment And maybe not as in complex of a way, but acknowledge that this is a vulnerable moment for his son and that he is indeed following him. He is indeed the leader, which is actually Kratos showing up as the implicit leader of the entire group, but that's for another analysis. And then saying, I am following you, but you don't speak to me that way. I don't even think he's saying that as your father, you don't speak to me that way. I really believe he's saying that more as you don't speak to people who follow you that way. Never treat your subordinates as if they are worthless to you or as if they are less than. When people put their trust in you as a leader, you respect that. So, because I think if this was about his relationship with his son as his father, he would have gotten maybe a little bit more defensive. I think this is more of Kratos saying, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to really teach you that you don't get to talk to people this way just because you're a leader. That is when you let power go to your head. Leaders don't have unilateral ability to just shit talk and barge their way through everybody's lives. You have to be understanding of who you're working with, and you have to be respectful, or else people are not going to follow you. It's really good stuff. That's really, really good stuff. Good luck clipping that for TikTok, Sean.
Go.
Remember, Kratos' entire directive here is to make sure that Atreus gets to a point where he is self-sufficient, capable of leading, and able to navigate this world. It's not for him to consistently have to rely on Kratos. So he's going to teach him these lessons in different ways to try to facilitate that. All right. Let's pull this chain.
What happened? Why didn't that work?
The chain is blocked.
Oh, whoops. I didn't look.
Should be clear now. Ready
Pineapple sure.
One more door. That one has to be it.
We will see.
Seems like we'll have to get to it first.
We've used water to power the wheels before. Worth a try.
Yep. Okay. Okay, nothing happened here. Oh.
Well, that didn't quite work. Something else we can do?
I would imagine so. Nice to know that I have this little path back.
Let's keep looking around. There's gotta be something else.
Okay, bucket goes across there. Okay, so this is interesting. So theoretically, I'm going to have to get both of those things.
Climb across. Look for another way.
I think I see a crank over here.
Atreus, another mental exercise. Would one who spends their life fighting, such as Tyr, have any desire to prove themselves. The proof leaves a wake of destruction.
But if the wake of destruction is a bunch of bad guys, why does that matter? You're strong, and you did the right thing.
War does not measure the strength of a man. I hope one day you understand.
Love it. Love it. This is the kind of stuff that he needs to do.
Hey, it looks like this machine is dropping ore into the water trough.
What I particularly like about that is that Kratos doesn't say, you're wrong, here's what it is. It wasn't a question for the sake of trapping Atreus into having the right answer, which is what a lot of parents will do sometimes with their kids when they're frustrated with them or when they think that they're lacking some sort of knowledge they need to have. Instead, it was quite literally a question to engage his curiosity, to engage him in some abstract thought, to get him to get out of his own shoes and into the context and motivations of another person. That's exactly the kind of thing that I would want Kratos to do. And he leaves it ambiguous so that Atreus can fight through it instead of saying that there's a yes or no answer, that it's either right or wrong. Because as so many of us know, when you get into adulthood, it's not always about right and wrong. It's about how you navigate ambiguity. And that was a great way to help him do that.
That's gotta be it.
Okay. So that dropped ore. So if I do this... Oh, I see. Okay. So the ore blocks that. This comes up. We shoot across. And then... Boom.
Hey, we did it. I'll meet you at the door. This could be it.
Yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna...
We still have to go back and check out that last door, right?
Yes, Atreus. I'm teaching you patience, brother. You can't.
Tell the ground to be still. This looks familiar. We're back in the spiral section of the mine.
All right. Let's see. Okay, another just small detail that I just have to point out because I think it's absolutely incredible that they would even think to do this. This wall has scrapes on it that suggest that other people have shimmied their way across it. You see that? Like, there's all these like muddy walls and stuff, but this has a very specific texture on it. And it's just such a small detail, but it's just amazing of like other people have gone across this and scraped their bodies, their armor or whatever against that wall as they've shimmied across it. It's just I love shit like that. I absolutely love stuff like it's just such a, it is so unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary to have that. And the fact that that exists, it just contributes to a lived-in world. It's such a small detail, but so important. It means we're not the only people that have ever been here. Whether it's true or not, who knows? Oh.
Damn it!
Did you hear that, brothers? I don't think we're alone.
Ears open. Eyes up.
Eyes up, Guardian.
It came from over here. There's a passage leading out.
I don't think it's any accident that Odin's Raven was chilling here either.
Atreus, do my words irritate you?
It's fine. I get it.
Brothers! Wait, is that light up ahead there?
Hey, this might be it.
Mimir is driving me nuts. Knock it off, dude. He is so conflict averse. Kratos asking that question there is awesome. It's awesome because it invites Atreus to speak honestly about the dynamic that's existing right now between Kratos and his son. It literally gives Atreus a chance to say, yes, they frustrate me. And for Kratos to be curious about it. You never, ever want to shut down curiosity from the direction of parent to teenage child. Ever. Curiosity is awesome, especially when it's curiosity that invites some level of deeper criticism or acknowledgement of a particular dynamic that is annoying. And Atreus's response there is very similar to his father at times. When you ask Atreus, or when you ask Kratos what's going on for him, and he'll kind of be like, no, it's fine. And Atreus does that. But this is a chance for Kratos to be like, yo, you can speak freely. I am following you. As the leader of the group is what I have to offer you, something that you don't appreciate. If so, please tell me. Learn to articulate your way through frustration rather than only attend to the frustration. I need to know how you feel about me right now in the same way that you need to know how I feel about you. That's how we get in sync. That's how we work as a team. That's how we solve these issues. I love that he asked that question, and I despise that Mimir jumped in the middle of it and stopped it. That's twice that Mimir has jumped in the middle of what could have been a constructive conversation out of his own sense of anxiety for the increased emotional intensity that's going on for something that does not directly affect him. Don't be that person, chat. It's certainly possible, Squatch. I don't know for sure.
That door's barred. They must be trying to keep something in.
You don't lock a door like that to secure the spare bedclothes.
I see what we must do. Atreus, your arrows.
Ready when you are.
Ooh, baby, what do we got coming at us? Oh, what's up, guys? Bifrost attacks. Einherjar can inflict Bifrost on the health bar. Bifrost heals over time, but follow-up hits can detonate it for extra damage. Oh, shit.
Clearly they don't want us in there. This has to be it.
Back to it then.
Those guys are fun to fight. What a cool way to open a door. Oh, yeah!
trickery is this, Odin? What game do you play with me now?
We're not with Odin. We're the good guys.
This is the God of War.
Those blades. I know you. God Killer. Have you come for me now?
Only to free you.
Stay away. Brother, let me try. Dear. Look, you know me, don't you?
You killed Mimir!
No.
Yeah, we brought him right back.
You stay away from me, you monsters!
Stop! We need him!
Wait!
Before we do this fight, it is completely understandable why Tyr would be afraid. This was always a possibility. He has been sitting there for God knows how long. And his entire context for understanding people coming into his cell is trapped in the moments that he was thrown into it. He doesn't have the luxury of bearing witness to all the development of the people in the world that he's been in during the time that he has been trapped there. The entire world froze when he went in there. That's what happens when people are imprisoned. So his assumption that we're dangerous is a form of self-preservation that he is absolutely entitled to. And this is what we would have wanted to help Atreus understand before this happened, which is that he's not going to make an assumption necessarily that we're cool. He's likely going to be like, holy shit, I got a chance to get out of here. I'm going to go. And I don't trust you guys because I got some kind of history with you. I recognize those blades. Mimir looks a lot like I do, without a head. And his initial reaction is, you killed Mimir too. Of course it is. We just presented the head of Mimir to him. Last time he saw him, Mimir was fully intact, I'm sure. So him being afraid and engaging in self-preservation is something that basically all of us would do here. He doesn't have the luxury of nuance there. We have no idea what kind of tormentation he's been subjected to. We were not entitled to him just magically working with us here. So now we got to pick up the pieces from this because we've just released the God of War into the world and he doesn't trust us, nor does he have any reason to. In fact, he may even report to Odin for all we know. This was the dangerous proposition that Kratos and Mimir were aware of when they were following Atreus. And maybe because they didn't want to burst Atreus' bubble, or maybe because they thought this wasn't even going to happen, they didn't bring these possibilities to light. That is a totally understandable reaction. Kratos doesn't have a very good reputation. The more that we do these things, the more that we're going to get closer to Atreus learning some of the past of his father.
What's your left?
Oh, shit.
On your left!
Okay, well, this is gonna be interesting.
I hear them.
Try us!
Another point I want to make here really quick, very briefly, is none of us are entitled to other people seeing us the way that we see ourselves. And that cuts in two different directions. In this case, Atreus is not entitled to Tyr seeing him as safe just because he knows he's safe. In real life, that means we don't always get to have the benefit of the doubt from other people because we don't know their lived experiences. Is it ideal to give people the benefit of the doubt when you can? Sure, but we're not entitled to it. We also are not entitled to people agreeing or seeing ourselves in the negative ways we see ourselves. When we bring ourselves into the world with projections that we're a pain in the ass and we're a burden and we're an asshole, we're not entitled to people agreeing with that either. And some people get really sucked into a sense of entitlement around that in the sense that they think that other people should share that belief about them because it makes it easier. And when people don't share that belief, they get anxious and they withdraw because they don't want to accept that maybe people have a better opinion of you than you have of yourself. And maybe there's some self-reflection that's required there. But no matter which direction it goes, you're not entitled to other people seeing you the same way that you see you. In fact, most people won't because people are wrapped up in their own experiences and their own perceptions and their own deductive and inductive reasoning in the way that they make sense of you. Just to add a little bit more complexity to what happened here with Tyr. Atreus in particular is learning that lesson harshly right now.
Atreus!
This way! Cut him off!
Oh, I thought I got my shield up in time. Whoa, that guy,
knocked around a
dude, that
bunch,
guy
aren't
looks
I?
badass.
Behind you! Incoming! Behind you! Incoming! That's the last of them. Let's find your son.
Yeah. Mimir probably didn't mean to do this. This is total over-analysis, but I think it's really interesting that the language that Mimir used there was let's find your son instead of let's find Atreus. I actually think Mimir saying let's find your son is perhaps a long shot way of trying to get Kratos to calm down and not be super angry at Atreus for chasing after Tyr right now. Just maybe. It's very nitpicky, total long shot, but I do find it interesting that he called him your son there instead of Atreus.
Tyr, it's okay. It's gonna be okay.
Just leave me alone.
Tyr, listen, I swear we're not here to hurt you. We're just trying to get
Get
you
away
out.
from me,
Take you
please.
somewhere safe,
I
away
beg
from
you.
Odin.
Show mercy.
This is my father. We help people.
I don't belong out here, please. It's worse when he's angry.
Father!
Are you not a soldier? Are you not a leader of men? Master yourself! My son brought us to this place. For you! Look at him!
You? Why? You don't know me.
I know what you stood for. You helped the Giants. We're returning the favor.
We?
We are leaving. Are you coming with us?
Here. Your statue in the lake. You had a spear. I thought you needed a weapon.
Walking stick? No. A kind thought, but no. Thank you, no.
But... Okay.
Oh. Respond to people by getting in to their context as best you can. Know your audience. You know who knows his audience right now? Kratos knows his audience right now. There are times where tough love, directness, aggression is exactly what somebody needs. And I'm guessing that Tyr has a similar background to Kratos, such that Kratos knows that if you engage the part of him that's a little bit more militarized, you will get his attention. You will reach him. That going at it with softness and persuasion is not the way. And I love that Kratos could acknowledge that that was the case and took control there and reached him. Beautiful. Know your audience. Respond to people and interact with people in the way that you know that they need, as opposed to the way that you think they need. Him turning Tyr toward Atreus and saying, "Look at my son," I think was more for Atreus than it was for Tyr. I think it was more for Kratos to say, I'm doing this because of you, because I believe in you, and I need this person to see that you are the reason we came here instead of it being me. Because if Kratos takes control there, it really does start to seem like Atreus is the one who was along for the ride, which one would reasonably assume by seeing one gigantic adult with a teenager. So Kratos saying, "Look at my son. We came here because he wanted to come get you," forces Tyr to make the attribution of this scenario over to Atreus where it belongs. That is awesome. That is exactly what Atreus needs to see that his father is confident in him. It's so much more about Atreus and Kratos' dynamic that he did that than it is about Tyr. He grabbed Tyr as soon as he did the soldier thing. As soon as he did the soldier thing. But when he tells him to look at Atreus, that's to pull Atreus into the moment. And to make it very clear that he was the leader. Whew. Kratos is killing it in this game. In like every possible way. And I love that Mimir sat back and is shutting up right now. Because Mimir knows that he made it worse by existing. So we're just going to kind of forget about that right now.
I ran because I don't always know what's real. Sometimes there's
There's no shame in that, brother. We live in strange times.
Everyone hears him talk.
We must return home.
Yeah,
Can you feel that? A wind blowing from over here. Maybe there's an exit nearby.
Are there names by which I should call you?
I'm Atreus. You already know Mimir. And that's my father, Kratos.
How does the son of a Spartan come to speak for the Jotnar?
My mother was the last giant in Midgard. Laufey?
Laufey. I remember that name.
She tried to help people too. She's in the light of Alfheim now.
You have my sympathies.
Pretty key too that he could kind of like that he could acknowledge that he doesn't always know what's real. It's helpful. What it basically says is like tread lightly. I'm doing my best to try to give this situation the benefit of the doubt, but it's going to be tough for me. Good little bit of self-advocacy, I suppose, and it kind of helps Kratos and Atreus know what they're working with. Getting this information and asking these questions is going to help immensely, too. But I think it would be okay if he's a little bit on guard here. We are not owed him feeling safe yet. We got a long way to go. I'm more saying that on behalf of Atreus than I am Kratos. Kratos, I think, fully understands that. Atreus, I think, is going to, as soon as he starts to get this sense that Tyr believes in him and trusts him, I think he's going to probably see that as something that's all-encompassing, as opposed to something that still needs to develop over time.
Are you okay?
These are just much stronger when you're not sitting down. Please, let me get that. It's the least I can do.
Whoa.
Thanks, dude.
Why risk Odin's wrath to free me?
Well, Ragnarok is coming. I hope you knew that. We thought you'd want to help.
You freed me only to start a war?
No.
So Tyr,
Kratos knew that's what was gonna happen. I hate that Mimir's gonna bail him out of this. What I would really love more than anything else would be for Mimir to step away for a second and let Atreus flounder. Let him flounder in this. This is his mission. And what's really cool about this is Tyr is engaging Atreus. Tyr took in what Kratos said, and he is engaging with Atreus on this. So Atreus, if you're going to go into this, if you're going to free people with your own agenda, you're going to assume that they share it. This is sometimes the consequence. You have to let him have this. It is way too often that parents jump in and they intercept the adversity that their children and teenagers face, whether interpersonally or otherwise, because they don't want them to be uncomfortable. They want them to get it right. You have to let them get it wrong. You have to let them sit in these kinds of moments and be uncomfortable and screw up and see the consequences of their actions interpersonally. This is exactly what Kratos knew was going to happen. Atreus needs to experience the natural consequence of that, rather than having Mimir bail him out. I would be screaming at Mimir to shut the hell up and let this happen if I was sitting with them. You have to let Atreus navigate this and learn to adapt and respond and read the scenario. You have to.
it's good to see you in the flesh again.
Mimir, what's become of you?
Following in your footsteps. Betrayal, indefinite imprisonment, execrable torture at the hands of the Old Father.
You didn't deserve such treatment.
Did you? I will say, my view was a touch better than yours.
We found him at the top of a mountain with tree roots wrapped all around him. The only way to free him was to... well, that.
Highly pleasant, for all parties involved.
You okay?
The light. It's been so long.
There's an outcropping just ahead. The shade will make it easier on your eyes. Come on.
You said Ragnarok is coming. Which means Baldur.
Baldur is dead.
Odin sent him to track down a giant in Midgard, and then he found Kratos at... Anyway, I'd promised to take these two to the tallest peak in the realms if they'd chop off my head and convince Freya to bring it back.
Mimir, speak of Baldur.
I was getting to that. Wasn't all kill this, kill that.
Hey, we're back in the wetlands.
Oh, God. For not having lungs, Mimir can sure be long-winded sometimes. Oh, God. So good.
Watch out! No. It's okay. I've got you.
Poisoning your back!
We've hurt them high! Knock them down!
Come. We must leave before more creatures attack. You should have taken the spear. Defended yourself.
No. I've abjured all violence.
But you're the god of war.
I left that behind long ago.
If Odin starts Ragnarok, you really wouldn't fight?
Not even if I wished to.
Uh-oh, Atreus. Uh-oh. Good. Somebody else besides Kratos needs to teach him that it's not always about fighting. Uh-oh. When people get disappointed, it is a window into their agenda. When people are disappointed, it means that some form of expectation has been violated. You can learn a lot about what people were planning with you and what they think about you if they express disappointment in your direction. It shows you the standard by which you have been held, both at the beginning and throughout your relationship to that person. Be mindful. It doesn't mean that that person's expectations of you were correct and that you have somehow fallen short and are a disappointment. It may mean that people don't have realistic or reasonable expectations of you.
Before we go any further, the truth. What is it you want from me? You speak of Ragnarok. Is it a god of war you came to find? Is that the tear you need?
Atreus.
Forgive me. I am grateful for my freedom. But if you want me to follow you to war,
or worse yet, lead you to it, then kill me now. My fight is gone. Damage is done.
No one's killing you, brother.
Better that than to live to see Ragnarok.
We do not seek war.
We just want some answers.
I don't know how to help you.
It doesn't matter. The Giants trusted you. That's the Tyr we need. We need you.
All right. All I ask is for a good night's rest. And maybe some food. I think you killed the guards bringing me dinner.
Brother, perhaps now you'd like to finish the story?
Before he does that, as you would probably imagine me to talk about here, we finally got an opportunity for Atreus to have to follow through. Quite the moment there when Tyr says, "What's the deal?" And Atreus paused, as if expecting that his father was going to fill in the gap and tell him. So a little bit of an oscillation back to, I kind of follow him. And Kratos goes, "Atreus?" Woo! What a way to hold back there and move the process again back over to your son. Force him to sit with the discomfort of answering that question. Because Atreus has to feel that just because he wants something doesn't mean that other people align with it. Just because he thinks a certain thing about somebody doesn't mean that that person hasn't developed past that. I love that Kratos deferred that over to Atreus. It also, again, diverts Tyr over to seeing Atreus as the person who is capable of leading this party. It would actually undermine Atreus considerably if Kratos was to take the lead here. And so I really appreciate that he is leaning into his son's autonomy and leadership and thought process. He is really allowing Atreus not just to be the leader by name and by talk. He is allowing him to be the leader by process, and that is infinitely more important than by label. It's huge that the conversation has to be between Atreus and Tyr, because ultimately this was Atreus's thing. This is what he wanted to pursue and lead us into. He has to be the one that sees it through. He has to be the one that feels not just the successes of that in finding him, he has to also feel and experience and respond to the roadblocks and the adversities that come along with it. He has to deal with the nuance and complexity of these things. Things don't just go the way you want them to because you want them to go a certain way. Awesome.
The sons of Thor attacked us. We killed them. Baldur tried to kill Freya. I killed him.
But you skipped over how we fought and freed the Valkyries. And that the Giants are all gone. And how they called me Loki. And finding the shrines.
The Giants are gone.
When we got to Jotunheim, they were all dead.
Dead? Do you think Odin...
We do not know.
I think we're getting out of here not a moment too soon.
Whoa, what are those?
Reinforcements from Asgard. The Einherjar will want to investigate my disappearance thoroughly.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Are they using the sky to travel between realms?
Odin's got tricks up his sleeve we haven't dared to consider.
They're coming down on the Nidavellir too. Will the dwarves be okay?
The time for such concerns has passed. We must leave. Now.
Look out!
Oh man, Tyr literally just runs and hides. Wow.
Yggdrasil. It's been too long. I'd forgotten. Beauty.
Tyr, in your travels, did you ever hear the giants talk about Loki?
I'm sorry. That name doesn't sound familiar. The Giants were very private people.
Makes sense.
Perhaps after a rest.
That's the other thing is Atreus going ham on Tyr right now is not great. It's very indicative of his age. Teenagers are quite egocentric. They tend to believe that anything that they think is important is equally shared as important with other people around them when it rarely is. Atreus has been thinking about this for a long time. He's been building this up in his mind. He's excited that he found him. He probably feels a huge sense of accomplishment that they were able to get him out of there. And so now he wants to start getting the answers. And as a result, he's not taking into account that Tyr was literally just, like, we just came into Tyr's life. He had no way of anticipating that this was going to happen. And in fact, probably never even considered that this was going to happen. So to go ham on trying to get answers is really going to miss the mark, and I think could potentially drive a wedge between us and Tyr if we're not careful. We need to understand and appreciate the lack of preparation that he had for this and give it a chance to sink in. And again, I would expect a teenager to be a little more egocentric about this. It would actually be a really cool show of allyship to an extent if Kratos was to say, hey, Atreus, why don't you chill for a little bit? We're going to let Tyr get the rest that he said that he needed and get some food, and there will be time to get these answers, but now is not the time. That would be a pretty powerful way to be able to handle that. You can't just automatically make teenagers think about the broader picture, as badly as we may want to. Sometimes you have to have some of those little interactions that over time start to build that sense that maybe there are things I need to consider that I'm not considering right now.
Treehouse.
Lord Tyr, you're really alive.
Am I? I wonder.
Okay.
He's just tired. I promised him some food and a room to rest in.
Ah, of course you did. Well, let's see what we can do. Please, come inside.
Wipe your feet.
We'll be right in.
I'll be.
So, can we talk about what to do next?
There is much to consider. We will speak in the morning.
Oh, okay. In the morning.
You hold still. Yep.
Much better. Thank you.
See? Sleep tight, Tyr. I'm gonna turn in. Big day tomorrow.
So, Tyr. Sounds like promises were made. Let's see about getting you settled, shall we? If you'll follow me.
Hey! Come see what I got for you. I'm sure we won't be interrupting
Have a
any
seat over here.
goings-on.
I'll arrange accommodations. I may need time to construct a bed for someone of your scale.
Please, don't go to trouble on my account. Too much space would be unsettling. Do you have a broom closet?
Yes, but it's where I keep my brooms.
That's all I need. To be honest, it's all I can manage.
All right. Some food then.
Oh, nothing much. Perhaps some hardtack.
Hard tack.
Any sort of humble ship's biscuit will do.
Aye.
With a pinch of salt?
Well, I'll see what I can find.
It is literally no different from the whale. No different from the whale. He has grown accustomed to his constraints, to his chains, so to speak. To him, salt on hardtack is luxurious. The idea that he would have anything more than that is probably just so far out of the realm of his expectation that he can't even go there. Perhaps doesn't even want to go there because he would conceptualize that as being indulgent. And on one hand, we may look at that and say, well, that's incredibly sad. On another hand, I think there's something to be learned from that. That we take so many of our indulgences for granted. We take our space, we take our food, our comfort, and we all just kind of say that's a baseline level of thing that we should expect. It's humbling to interact with somebody like Tyr, because it really does make you realize that it doesn't take much to be comfortable relative to what some people have to deal with. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be in prison so that they can experience that, but it's a lesson to us to be more aware of the things that we take for granted so that we can appreciate those things. And I think also there is a tendency to want to try to convince Tyr that he is that more is available to him, that what he's dealing with right now is sad and he should want to get over it. That's not necessarily true. It may be that over all the time that Tyr spent in that cell, he made his peace with it. He very well could have gotten to a point where he's like, you know what? I don't need the massive, exorbitant luxuries of life anymore. I just want peace, want a little bit of salted hardtack, a space to call my own that I can move in freely, and I'm good. And who are we to tell him otherwise? It really is it's more of an indictment on us when we feel a sense of compulsion to try to change things for him. We can introduce the idea that there's more available to him in terms of comforts, but we certainly shouldn't force it on him because of our own sense of anxiety of what it must be like to be in his position. When he very well could have made his peace with it. He might be okay with the fact that this is the case. And the major point that I'm really trying to make here is that it is always important to consider the other person's perspective, context, values relative to what it is that's going on. It's so easy for us to take our own situation, our own perceptions, our own values and learned experiences and assume that that's what works best for everybody else. And that is not always the case. The way that you reach people and connect with them is by understanding them better, getting to know what's going on for them, and moving them as like a therapist, in my case, moving people through a process if they say that that's the process they would like to go through, not by forcing people into some sort of space that they're not ready or willing to go into. But yeah, we don't get to feel better about ourselves by fixing Tyr. Absolutely not. Yeah. What would be the best way to help Tyr adjust to being out of his previous prison? To give him time to adjust. Literally just give him time to adjust to it. Ask him how you can make him comfortable. Ask him what he needs, which is what Sindri did. And then he said, I just want some hardtack with salt and a small space. That's all I can handle right now. And to take him at his word for that. We know that he now has a lot more available to him. It doesn't mean he has to have it all at once. The metaphor that I would actually use for this is that if you are severely dehydrated, it is actually really dangerous to gulp down a shitload of water if somebody hands you like a water bottle. The way that you have to come back from severe dehydration is sips. You have to take it a little bit at a time. And so if he comes out here and all of a sudden we just flood him with a waterfall of water, so to speak, he's not going to be able to handle it. It's going to be dangerous. So we need, you got to let him ease his way into this. We are used to this. We are used to just walking through the 9 realms as if it's nothing. We just open these portal doors and we just walk through here and we go into this treehouse and we go into Svartalfheim, go into Jotunheim. We just barge our way through the lives of whoever we want to barge our way through the lives of. And he did that at one point too. And now he's kind of like, well, you know, kind of being just in a nice little small space is good for me. I am okay with that. Again, who are we to try to convince him otherwise? He will feel this out over time. So the way that you support him is just to say, hey, man, I can answer any questions you got. I can help you figure anything out that you want to figure out. But I also want to make sure that I'm respecting what it is that you need right now. That's all you got to do. So in this situation then, where we're giving somebody hope to who's given up hope, it's potentially damaging. It can be if you try to force it on them instead of letting people go at their own pace and make their own meaning out of it. Yes, you could absolutely miss the mark because we are assuming that what we are giving him hope for is something he wants hope for, and it may not be the case. And it's going to further isolate him if we consistently interact with him from our own agenda rather than trying to get to know him. Being curious about his position and how he came to where he is what's important here. He has just lobbed us a softball by saying on the boat, I gave this all up. I couldn't fight even if I wanted to at this point. I want to know more about that. I want to be curious about that. Instead of engaging with that with like disappointment or looking at him and going, oh, Odin stripped that from you, poor thing. And pitying him. We don't need to pity him. We can be curious about it. What happened? How did you get there? Are you satisfied with that conclusion? Do you ever find yourself wishing you could go back to that? Have you made your peace with this? Are there any loose ends that still need to be tied up? Be curious about people that you don't understand, rather than making some sort of assumption that they're either a dramatic figure or a victim of something. If he says, yeah, dude, it was bullshit. He stripped every sense of autonomy that I have, and I have no idea how to find it. I'd certainly like to, but that's different than him saying, I gave up the violence. And I'm okay with that. He literally said, kill me rather than have me lead you to war in light of Ragnarok. He literally said, kill me on the boat. That's how much of a conclusion he has drawn from this. That's how strongly he feels about his aversion to violence. He literally ran and cowered when we had to fight right before we went through the portal. If that doesn't tell you anything, then you're not paying attention. So you have to be curious about this kind of thing. We can't just sit and take our own values and throw it onto him just because he's here. That's a very selfish thing to do. Again, was this about freeing Tyr? Or was this about moving Tyr from one chain to another chain? Was this about taking Tyr away from Odin's will and now making him bend to our will? There's not really any autonomy in that. You really want to facilitate autonomy and be an ally to Tyr, you let him out of the cell and say, what do you want to do now? Here's our agenda. You know Odin's agenda. Do you want to follow one of those, or do you want to just do your own thing? That is in the service of Tyr. The power of choice. Him being in prison means he doesn't have choice. If he comes out and we say the only way we're going to keep you around is if you're willing to follow our agenda, we haven't actually freed him. What are your thoughts on how that concept could apply to relationships? I sometimes struggle with taking on my girlfriend's issue onto myself, for example, and trying my best to be a self-therapist as much as possible, but I know the onus isn't on me intellectually. Right. That's where communication and curiosity comes from, some of what I've been talking about here. Ask people what they need. Ask people how they've drawn the conclusions that they've drawn. If you engage people with curiosity rather than judgment and assumption, you are already light years ahead of most. We don't know what happened to Tyr. We need to learn. Spartan, thank you very much for the 6-month sub.
I could have sworn we had some crackers. Maybe the squirrel took them.
The squirrel?
You know what? They must be in the pantry. I'll just look quietly.
Wait, so curiosity is a good thing? I thought it was a naive thing to do. No, curiosity is the antidote to naivety. If you don't know something, if you're naive about something, the way that you learn more about it and become not naive about it anymore is to be curious about it, is to ask questions, is to engage from a space of wonder, as opposed to just drawing certain conclusions and trying to be a hero. Curiosity is the antidote to naivete.
You got some slag from the homeland, huh? Hand it over. I'll fix you up something.
This will be of use.
Spartan, thanks for the 3,000 bits. That's incredibly kind of you. Thank you.
So that's what's left of Tyr, huh? Back where I come from, we'd say he's been through a few things.
So have we all.
Well, ain't you philosophical? Is that? Oh. Thanks for bringing this. Least here the Einherjar can't touch it.
All right. I currently have... Oh, what am I currently rocking? I'm currently rocking the Deadly Obsidians, I think? How do I know which ones I'm currently... Okay, Cursed Empress. That's what I'm currently using. I think I want Undying Spark instead of Empress. Oh, let's see, holy...
That'll put some hurt on them.
Alright. Armor. Let's go. Okay, so chest armor. Waist armor. Belt of might. Don't want defense, I want strength. Belt of might. Let's go ahead and do that.
That'll keep your bits in all the right places.
A good fit.
You won't get so much as a paper cut in that.
That's good to know, man. Thank you.
That'll keep your bits in all the right places.
A good fit.
Good stuff. All right. Thanks, Brock. I don't know. All right, let's see if we can talk to Tyr. I'll bet you are, Sherv.
Perhaps I'll be able to sleep tonight. Really sleep. The sleep of a free man without the Allfather's eye on me.
He still calls him the Allfather, which means that Odin did some pretty nasty shit to him, that he knows he's free and he still calls him that. It might be out of habit, but that goes to show you just how far just how far Tyr fell, so to speak, while he was imprisoned, is to call him the Allfather. It's a huge clue into how inducted he got into that.
What are you thinking, brother?
I am thinking. I want things to be the way they were.
Well, I'd like to climb a tree again. Certain ships have sailed.
I just wish Atreus were not so restless. I care only for his safety.
I know, brother. But holding him too tight won't keep him out of danger. The lad's determined to make a few mistakes of his own. And I hate to say it, I think Tyr might be one of them. I've never seen a man broken so completely.
His pain is fresh. You expect too much.
Aye, perhaps. Pity Freya still wants to kill you. That's an ally we could use.
That is not an option.
No, I don't suppose it is.
Trouble sleeping. Ah! Shh. You cannot sneak up on me like that. There's something I have to do in Midgard.
What? Without me? I thought we were partners.
We are. Just wasn't sure you'd want to join me. I'm visiting an old friend.
Oh, I see. Or possibly not doing that, taking into account she's determined to murder you.
She wouldn't really.
Look, I think it's lovely that you see the best in people. I really do. And I want you to continue to see the best in people by not getting yourself murdered.
But we need her. It's worth the risk.
Is it, though?
Oh my god, I'm
How about I
Atreus
suggest an
now?
alternative? Something much less risky, but maybe could give you some answers.
What are you talking about?
A certain old friend you haven't seen in a while. A very giant friend.
Jormungandr? Did you find him?
Why don't I show you? It's just on the way to the vengeful goddess who wants you dead, so it'll give us some time to decide about not going there.
So, you know where Freya is?
No. I mean, yes, but look, let's just talk to the snake first, and then I won't take you to Freya. How's that sound?
Oh boy. Part 6 is gonna be a trip. Oh my god. We're doing another thing behind Kratos' back. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is gonna be wild. Before I go, I will say this. Atreus hearing Kratos say that all he wants to do is keep Atreus safe. Atreus probably mishears that. He probably hears that as, I want Atreus under my thumb at all times because that's what his experience has been of his father keeping him safe, rather than the more nuanced version, which is, my father wants us to experience stuff so he can teach me to be self-sufficient, thus I can keep myself safe when he's not around to keep me safe. So doing this behind Kratos' back is a way, in some ways, to try to prove to Kratos that he can do these things and that he doesn't need to be under Kratos' thumb. He doesn't need Kratos to keep him safe. That's not what Kratos is saying. So the eavesdropping here is actually potentially going to shoot him in the foot, because now we're about to do something really stupid instead of talking to Kratos about it. After Kratos showed that he's willing to go along with this stuff. It's because of a misfire. It's because of Atreus overly personalizing it due to his tendency to go more egocentric because his brain hasn't fully developed yet to take on Kratos' nuanced perspective. Whew. I don't think it's about proving his father wrong. I don't think Atreus is trying to prove Kratos wrong. I think what Atreus is trying to do is prove to Kratos that he is self-sufficient. It's like any teenager. Teenagers generally want to show their parents that they are more adult, that they're capable. They don't generally want to prove you wrong unless their perception of you is that you don't think they're capable. Kratos has taken every opportunity to tell Atreus that he believes he's capable, and he is acknowledging his development. It's very hard for teenagers to acknowledge their own development because they don't have the lived experience that adults have to understand their development in context. It's a very complicated issue. But no, I don't think he's trying to prove his dad wrong. I don't think he's trying to give him the middle finger and say, F you, man, you don't know what you're talking about. I think what he's trying to do is say, Dad, you don't have to worry about me. You spend a lot of time worrying about me. You spend a lot of time trying to watch over me. I don't think you need to do that. I'm more powerful than you think. I'm capable of doing these things on my own. See, I just did it. Look who's sitting in the tree right now because of my mission. That's how he's looking at this. I got Tyr back. If I got Tyr back, I could go convince Freya. Of course I can. I'll show you that you don't have to worry about me, Dad. I think that's what it's coming from. But we'll find out. That's why he's doing it behind Kratos' back. Not great. He lacks the foresight. He lacks the ability to anticipate consequences before acting on his impulses, which again is why teenagers freak adults out. It's why we get afraid of teenagers driving cars. It's why we get afraid of teenagers having big giant ideas, because teenagers just do not think about consequences. Teenagers see about 5 feet in front of their face. And they do that not because they're idiots and not because they are vengeful, mean-spirited, F-you kind of people. They do it because their brain legitimately has not developed yet to the point that they can think about these things. They need life to smack them around a little bit in order to teach them that lesson, unfortunately. This is a perfect representation of what a teenager in this position would do. And it's why I think this game is so much fun to do. We'll see. Regardless, this is going to be wild. Episode 6 is going to be something else, so I really hope that you will follow us into it. If you're binging the series and it's either done or 6 is available to you and you hop right over, I'll see you over there. If you're waiting for the next episode to come out, we'll get it out to you as soon as we possibly can. Come hang out with us live sometime on Twitch. We would love to have you. Leave a like on your way out. Leave a comment down below. Follow the links in the description, including Discord, where I post go live announcements and stuff like that. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for engaging with these playthroughs and hanging out with me. And I will see you on the next one.